This has always been rhetorically, in my whole lifetime, I remember you'd always hear people on the left saying the Republicans are moving to the right. You'd always have people on the right saying the Democrats are moving to the left. But with the Democrats right now, it's really demonstrable. Like things that Obama said 10 years ago, if you were to say today, would be disqualifying. You'd be done. I mean, just Obama saying like, Obama said flat out when he was talking about the deportations, he said, look, don't send your kids. It's going to be really bad. So don't send your kids. We need legal immigration, not illegal immigration. He was against gay marriage being legal. I mean, if you took any of these positions today, you would the next day drop to like 0 in the polls. There's no way you could survive the Democratic Party today.
I know. If you want to be a Democrat today, you have to be in favor of giving abortions to trans men and providing health care to illegal aliens. Gotta get woke.
Did you see that guy, because he said to trans women in the debate, and we were all making fun of it. We were like, well, trans women don't have a uterus, so wherever you come down on the abortion debate, I don't think they, and then he goes, no, I misspoke. I meant trans men. So basically what he just did was misgender. He committed the ultimate lefty sin of misgendering. He should be fucking banned off of Twitter and all that stuff.
Right, but what I want to know is, like, in what world are we living in where you have a debate and then these so-called respected mainstream media pundits just sit there without challenging him? Like, if I was moderating that debate, I would have been like, Julian, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, men can't get pregnant.
Yeah.
But none of them said anything.
And then the fact that you've got
they're not even challenging them on their insanity.
Right, and you've got 20 candidates in the field. So everybody's got to kind of separate themselves. You'd think if one person said the most retarded thing that's ever been said, like men should be able to have abortions too, that someone else would be like, oh, there's an opening for me to score some points. But it goes to show you that everyone is terrified of the
progressive left.
Yes. Yeah. Whatever you even like the woke PC crowd, which really doesn't make up that big of a percentage of America. It's just that everyone's scared of them. It's a weird dynamic, right? Because there's no way they're going to win a general election saying illegals should get taxpayer provided health care.
Or that they want to decriminalize illegal immigration to our country. So we're going to have every single person in the world, right? What is there? 7 billion people on this planet. Everybody's welcome in America. And then the American taxpayers are just going to pay for evereverybody.
And it's not
we don't even give health care to our veterans, right? There are people in this country like 9/11 first responders who just testified on the Hill with Jon Stewart a couple weeks ago. One of the guys who was standing right next to him just died a few days ago. Right. So why don't we give those people health care before we start paying for illegal aliens and, people who just want to freeload off of American taxpayers all these free benefits? We can't afford it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can't afford it and we can't do it. I mean, the government is so ineffective as the example you just used, just providing for the people who you would think would be the first on the list, like veterans coming back from war, first responders on 9/11. We can't even get that straight.
Exactly.
And it's not as if, even with the open borders argument, I can respect, at least in theory, there are like some libertarians who will be like, look, I think we should abolish the welfare state and people can come and go as they please. Like, okay, at least there is an ideological consistency to that. Mm-hmm. But the AOC wing, who's basically saying we should have open borders and the government should provide healthcare, education, housing, probably 6 other things I'm not even thinking of right now. How could that, just on paper, how could that possibly work? How could it possibly work if you're going to provide everything for people and decriminalize entering the country illegally? Why wouldn't just millions more people from Central America want to flood in, who are already flooding in?
You're being too logical, Dave. I mean, you're not allowed to be logical. All right,
it is racist.
The logical left is an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't talk about those things. But really, it just goes to show you the absurdity, right? We're living in a time now where we have members of Congress who are calling illegal immigrant detention centers concentration camps, right? We have members of Congress who are using their positions to advocate for members of ISIS who are trying to kill Americans, right? And I'm talking about the Hamas caucus, Ilhan Omar, who advocated for 9 men who tried to join ISIS overseas. And the media doesn't talk about this, right? You have AOC who is proposing this Green New Deal, right? So we're gonna kill all the cows, all right? Because cows fart and that's bad for the environment. And we're gonna ban airplanes, so you're never gonna be able to travel anywhere again. I mean, does anyone really think that this is going to work in a modern society? Why isn't anyone on the left challenging this?
Well,
is this what the Democrat Party truly is that even the most absurd things, talking about banning airplane travel and killing cows because they fart,
well,
that's what we have to accept?
You think about the the amount of scrutiny that the most modest Republican plans have gotten in the past. I mean, I remember when Paul Ryan put out what was the Ryan budget. This is going back to like 2011 or something like that. But it was like the Ryan budget. And it was such a bullshit. Like, he pretended to be this fiscal conservative. He wasn't at all. It was like, we're going to cut $30 billion out of the increase in spending over the next 20 years. And the whole media freaked out. Like, this is insane. They were running those ads against Mitt Romney saying they're pushing grandma off the cliff. Like, we can't afford to cut, like a little bit in the rate of increase of government spending.
Yeah.
Yet AOC will just come out and say, we should, I mean, straight up, her plan was that we're going to tear down 100 million buildings and rebuild them to be, whatever, energy sustainable or carbon neutral or whatever. And the media goes, well, she's bold. I mean, it's a bold, it's like, yes, it is bold to advocate that we turn ourselves into a third world country in the next decade. That is bold. It's also insane.
Right.
And it gets almost a complete pass.
Right. And the same goes for Ilhan Omar again. I mean, I don't understand, right? I've been labeled as an Islamophobe and called an anti-Muslim bigot simply for reporting the truth about this insanity and just asking these logical questions like you and many others have asked, right? Do you think it's appropriate for somebody to be serving on the Foreign Affairs Committee in Congress, having access to our classified information when she's calling for total defunding? And I'm talking about total defunding, not $1 to be given to DHS. So Ilhan Omar wants to abolish the Department of Homeland Security. And this is the same woman who's prancing around with the Council on American Islamic Relations, a designated Islamic terrorist organization, at their fundraisers, describing 9/11 as something that some people did.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I kind of tend to agree with her about
just
abolishing the Department of Homeland Security. Abolishing any government agency, I'm probably on board with you. The 9/11 thing was a little bit weird. That was pretty weird.
Right, but
to
so many
refer to it.
agencies are encompassed in DHS, right?
Yeah.
So to do a total defunding, we're not going to have any Border Patrol. We're not going to have any ICE. We're not going to have, TSA. We're not going to have any of these things that protect us. I mean, you can't just defund Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah. Well, I would say there's look, what I would like to do ultimately is privatize everything, let people cut the complete welfare state, let people at the border protect their own land. But look, it's a very complicated situation. We already have the government involved in so much of it. I am curious, what do you do now? Like, with your career, what do you do now that you've been canceled?
Well, I don't really think of it as being canceled.
Well,
right?
I just
mean,
mean
the
in
left,
quotes.
they say that I'm canceled, but every single time they say I'm canceled, I just come back and do something bigger and better. I mean, since they said I've been canceled, I've trended on Twitter #1 multiple times without even having a Twitter account, right? So you see these left-wingers who, don't really do anything, and they get paid to just stalk people like me on social media and monitor what more interesting and creative and talented people are doing on social media or on Telegram and these other platforms now, since we're all canceled. And that's what they get paid to write about, right? And they'll say things like, oh, death of a provocateur, oh, she's gone, her career is over, she's dead. But look, I handcuffed myself to Twitter, okay? I trended #1 in the world above President Trump and Putin at the summit, right? Internationally. So clearly, that's not being canceled, right?
Yeah.
About 2 months later, I went to California when the government was shut down, and I put illegal aliens on Nancy Pelosi's lawn and set up a sanctuary on her lawn, right? And said everyone was welcome there. And since she doesn't believe in border security and thinks that everyone should just be able to come, I went up to her house with the illegal aliens, and we tried to unlock her doors, and her doors were locked. And I trended #1 on Twitter again. So that's not really being canceled. And the fact that they think that my abilities and, my, I guess my creativity and my ability to function in society is just going to be determined by the limits that they place on me, it's crazy. It just shows you how totalitarian and fascist they actually are, while they accuse me of being a fascist, right? They're just projectors. And so that's why I went to Jack Dorsey's house, of course. And what I did is I rented a projector and I projected the names of all the banned conservatives onto his house. And it was just silent, right? To just show them their hypocrisy and how they're projecting their own self-worth and their own interpretations and the limitations that they themselves probably have within themselves on me.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm going to be doing other things. I'm going to be doing other things.
So you found, yeah, and you've done several of these big, like I don't know, the word that's coming to my mind is stunts, but I don't mean to say that in an insulting
They're called
way.
Loomerings.
Yes, okay.
Loomerings.
Okay, very good. So you did the thing where you went up on the stage at the play,
Right.
and the handcuffing to Twitter, this thing on Nancy Pelosi's lawn. Is
Right.
this kind of your response in a way to them trying to shut you up, that you kind of can't ignore big gestures like this? People are going to talk about them whether or not your Twitter is suspended.
Well, you can't. Yeah, right. So it is a response in a way, but it's not just a stunt, right? There's always a lot of thought that goes into what I do, and it's not just as simple as handcuffing myself to Twitter. You know, you saw that I clearly had people measure the windows, and we had the juxtaposed blown up tweets of my tweet in which I was banned for calling Ilhan Omar anti-Jewish next to Farrakhan's tweet. And, you know, there's a lot of thought and detail, and I'm very kind of meticulous in the way that I go about the messaging and the symbolism and what I do, of course. And so I also look at these videos that I make as a way to educate people and expose the left's hypocrisy, right? So you can't say everyone's welcome here and that Donald Trump is a terrible person because he wants to build a wall and that walls are immoral if you're going to literally deport Laura Loomer and her illegal
Right.
alien amigos off your lawn at your $25 million mansion after they hop your wall, right? So they
Yeah.
just look like total hypocrites.
Oh,
these
there's a real hypocrisy in even the canceled culture. I mean, the idea being that we want to get rid of undesirable people, but you're also evil if you make that argument that you're not for open borders, that you don't want everyone coming in. It's like there's a real hypocrisy in that.